Other type of presentations are using expertise, passion, and opportunity. It's just a different way of how to look at it. Now, as a spiritual entrepreneur, we are faced with our tradition, and we're faced with our teachers who have a certain plan, mission, and idea. Srila Prabhupada mentioned often that he derived great inspiration from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport to the Vyavyasyaatmika Buddhirekhya Gurunandana verse, where in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says what? This is one of the key points of Bhagavad Gita. Anybody has an idea?
The instruction of spiritual master has become my life and soul.
And that is considered the perfection of life of the disciple. To imbibe, to make the mission and the instruction of his teacher his own mission. Now you may say, then why do we do this course here? You know, why waste 2 months, you know? Just ask Gurudev, okay, what should I do? And then you just go out and do it, right? It's not as easy as that, because the mission is very broad. The mission is vast. There's so many aspects in this mission. This is a big lotus with many petals. And the absolute truth is both personal, localized, and impersonal. So in whichever relationship you are in, there is something for you in Krishna consciousness. In other words, it's not a cookie cutter model. You know, you have a cookie cutter and you just jump. Because you'll find if you try a cookie cutter approach, people will not like. They don't like it. If you want to put round pegs into square holes, if you want to push people into your type of understanding of who they are or what they should be doing. But the approach of that Prabhupada used was, what is it that you like to do? Why don't you do that for Krishna? Oh, you're a painter, you're an artist, you're an English professor. Would you like to edit? Is this something you could consider? And everybody said, yes, I love it. Yes, I would like to do it. And then later on, as time progressed, people also got into the surrender zone where they were ready to do things that were not according to their nature, not according to their mindset and proclivity, but because they saw the benefit and they have faith, they have trust in the instruction of the teacher, then they could actually extend themselves. You have, I do realize we're running through paper, but there is more. What's that?
No.
Thank you for being very specific. That's a dot, and that's I, or you, or me. We're small, living entities, infinitesimal. We all have, this is called the circle of influence. And we have a circle of concern. And your spiritual practice will allow you to grow exponentially according to the realization, the experience, the blessings, the guidance that you avail yourself through your practice. That you can not only reach your circle of influence, but you can also reach closer to your circle of concern. But what oftentimes happens is we concern ourselves with what's called the panic zone, or the what's beyond our reach right now, and we get frustrated and we get discouraged. Has this ever happened to you? Or is it just me? So focus on what you got right now, and that's you. And therefore, today we're just basically going to focus on you. Tomorrow we're going to focus on what you do and how you do it. But today it's all about you as a person and what's your sense of identity. Any questions so far? Yes.
Is it how to analyze two apparent opposite views, one from the Shastra and is advising the devotee to perform devotional service without expecting any
Result?
any profit,
Reward.
any reward. And on the other hand, we have these wonderful devotees doing amazing service in applying the mechanics of the material world. And we see the result that is the one that you just pointed out of the website, having 17 websites.
60 websites, 36 employees, $17,000 overhead a month.
So he's paying them, he's paying the people, and so it may be, how to analyze this apparent contradiction. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your question. If you want to stay small, you can work with volunteers. If you want to expand in a massive way, you will have to either pay people or maintain people or give stipends. Am I right or am I right?
Sure.
Please say yes. If you just want to do something locally and it's something very small, you find a few people who share your concern and they contribute a little time and effort and resources. But if you want to do things on a bigger scale that people have to actually be full-time involved, you have to learn how to look after them. Have you heard of the corporation called Nestle? Their vision is to sell 1 billion products a day. That's 1,000 million products a day. That's their vision. They're on every continent, in every country, in every store, selling you from candies to milk powder to water to diapers to you don't even want to know. Their approach is when we look for talent, we ask our prospective employees one question. What would it take for you to dedicate your entire life till retirement with our company? That's their approach. And they're ready to negotiate, to get the people that they feel should be their organization. Now I know we have this idea that everybody just has to do it for free. But then how are you going to go and make your money? Where is your subsidy going to come from? Where are you going to stay? How are you going to be maintained? That works if you have a few monks, or a few volunteers, or a few people who are independently wealthy, and they just meet once a week or once a month to have some fun. But if you want to have people who actually do this and they maintain their families, like these 36 employees, they're in India. So they may get paid anywhere between 8,000 and maybe 20,000 rupees. And they maintain their families with that. So that's called a stipend. It's not like a corporate competitive salary. So it's not contrary to our ethos or our philosophy to receive that, because we're supposed to look after people. In fact, it would cost you more if you would do it yourself. It's cheaper and better if you let them take care of themselves. But it brings up a topic that oftentimes we misconstrue, we misunderstand. We want people to be materially dependent and spiritually independent. Does that work? Why does it not work? You were shaking your head.
Because people have needs, and once they focus on these needs, they cannot focus on their spiritual life.
Okay.
If their concern is mostly with their basic needs.
So,
Come
who
spiritual.
should take care of those needs?
Their leaders and themselves.
Their leaders and themselves, okay? If they have a lot of people in an organization, a leader may not be capable of individually looking after every individual's need. So he has to set up a system, a structure, so that everybody's taken care of. In companies, it's called the HR department, Human Resource Department, which takes care of hire and fire, also of training and education. So it's a big thing. In volunteer organizations, this is often overlooked. And thus, what happens is you have the revolving doors syndrome, that a lot of people are coming, but a lot of people are also leaving. And it's very wasteful. You remember the point he made this morning? When salespeople leave you, how much it costs you? Tremendous numbers, right? Like horrendous. So we put out a ton of effort to attract people to our movement, to our organization. But we use hardly a fraction of effort to retain people and to actually train them and to keep them happy. So I consider this venture here one of those efforts, and that's why I'm happy that it's happening and trying to collaborate with Maharaj in this regards. Because people are looking for meaning, they're looking for purpose. They're not necessarily looking to make a financially lucrative career. Otherwise, they're really in the wrong place. Because if you start at the top, no one is paid. The only people that are paid are cooks, drivers, cleaners, like people who really need to be taken care of. But as soon as you go from manager and above, no one is paid. Because you're supposed to be smart enough to figure out how to take care of yourself. And to take care of dependents is the duty of a leader. Prabhupada was very considerate with everyone. And that's why people loved him, and that's why people surrendered their lives to him. So the more we can imbibe that care, and not just imbibe it, but also show it, by providing for people. Like, how do you feel about lunch here? Or breakfast? Do you feel anything?
Awesome.
Do you feel full? Do you feel fulfilled? Do you feel grateful? Do you feel nourished? Do you feel sheltered? Do you feel cared for? I see all of those emotions in your faces. That's why you're in the post-lunch coma. Because if you don't create opportunities, you will create opportunists. If you don't look after people, people will start looking after themselves. And they'll just go somewhere else, and they'll do something else. So, you may be a volunteer organization, you may be just working with people who bought into the cause, but the more you learn how to not see things as mutually exclusive, but actually as complementary and inclusive, following Rupa Goswami's principle of Yukta Vairagya, of higher, real renunciation, the more will people gravitate towards you and they will look for your guidance and your shelter, because they can see you can provide guidance and shelter. Does that help? How to make it work practically? That is an art. Because you have limited resources and you have a lot of needs. You have a lot of wants. So how do you start? You start small. Start up doing it yourself. On no budget or on a shoestring budget. Most of the great companies, they started in garages. They started in dorms. They started in libraries. They started in student unions. Where like-minded individuals put their heads together and were just jamming. They were just putting it up, hashing it out, really getting it out there, refining it, honing it, and then putting all their life, their resources, and their effort into it to make it work. That's how the biggest corporations were built. So, same thing with spiritual organizations. They're usually built by radicals, by people who have full faith, and they're ready to go all in. How it works, we'll discuss more on that tomorrow. Any other questions on this so far? Yes?
Can you please give us a bit of details on what circle of influence and circle of concern mean?
Like right now, I may be concerned that people in Siberia are feeling cold right now. Right? I was in Novosibirsk in January, and it was minus 35. And it's cold. But it's beyond my circle of influence. There's not much I can do about it to help them. I was there, I experienced it, so I know, I feel their pain. But it's beyond my circle of influence. Now, I am still involved with this project here. I am concerned that you're feeling okay. And I'm making sure that the people who work here or who serve here make sure that you're okay. And that you have the bed sheets and the blankets and a functioning toilet, etc. So you feel comfortable. So my circle of concern may be Novosibirsk, but my circle of influence may only be one building, or it may only be myself. I'm very limited. So to figure out what is my circle of influence and what is my circle of concern is very important, because again, if you want to make rain, don't try to boil the ocean. Because boiling the ocean is a frustrating experience. Have you ever tried to boil the ocean? We all have, right? In our own ways. You start talking about stuff and you start, just kind of like... Every spiritual entrepreneur, you need two tools. You do need a telescope. You do need to dream and to look into the sky and look at the stars and think like, wow, this is where we gotta go. But you also need a microscope where you look at ground zero reality, where you're at right now, and how to progress from there. You need both. So keep your stethoscopes and your microscopes. Don't throw them away. Don't break them. They're valuable. Most people settle for mediocrity. They go mid-range, and they just try to be average. And honestly speaking, it doesn't work. Because everyone's unique. And every circumstance, every situation is unique. Other points? How do you know what you're good at? Not a question to you. How do you know what you're good at?
You like to do it even if you're not paid.
Okay, but does that necessarily mean that you're good at it? Are there certain things that you like to do, and you don't get paid for them, but you're not good at? Okay. Yeah. I can think of a number of things that I'm terrible at. I still like to do them, but I'm not that great at it.
I think what people appreciate.
What people can appreciate. How do you know what people appreciate? I'm asking the so what question.
Feedback.
Feedback. Have you introduced the concept of 360-degree feedback? Not yet. What happens to you emotionally when you hear the word feedback? I mean, in India, feedback is usually when you put the microphone to the loudspeaker. Have you heard that kind of feedback? Right? It kind of freaks you out. What do you think of when you hear feedback? Would you like me to give you feedback? Who here would like to get feedback? What's your first emotional response? I don't like it. I'm ready to fight back. So first rule, when you get feedback, don't fight back. Because people will stop telling you anything. People will stop talking to you when they see that you're not ready to actually engage in what's called, an open discussion. Maharaj can explain the concept of 360 degrees feedback, and I will take a short minute of absence.
Since
Feedback. Some things you can't avoid. It comes for free.
That's a spontaneous management, Swiss management. Eat with Indian flavor, eat with salt. So, 360-degree feedback. Someone can help us with drawing things. Maybe you could take, or you could flip that paper to the other side. Oh, there is a better one. Yeah. So we can draw a circle